Hello, my friends. It's Wednesday, December 17th, 2025, and I'm your host, Radical Russ Belville, your Red State refugee. And welcome to the Radical Russ Show, your weekday morning wake and bake, coming to you from Rolla J Studios in Southern Oregon.
It goes down smooth. Hey!
On today's smoke session, let's talk about, are Republicans actually quiet quitting Donald Trump? MAGA Mike Johnson's House of Representatives votes to strip search kids, and rich centrist white men's advice to young men is get your booze on and make some friends. But before we get to all the serious political stuff, we've got time for 3 quick hits. First of all, thank you for following the podcast and sticking with me through the various format changes. Like I mentioned on Monday, we're just going to do this one take, ad hoc, ad lib, ad nauseum podcast. Get you my thoughts for the morning as I get ready to head out to work. And thinking about podcasting, I saw this post from Anon Opinion out on Blue Sky, makes a very important point. They should stop filming podcasts. The whole point is it's supposed to be an audio medium. Too many are unlistenable now because they have to describe what's going on for the audio listeners. Yes, I completely concur. I absolutely agree. And that's why I'm not doing video for this podcast. Adding video just adds so much more work for very little gain. And I know the world's a video world now. Everybody's pivoting to video. Got to do the TikTok and the Instagram and the Reels and all that. But I'm old. I'm retired. I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. I started podcasting back in 2006, back when you had to explain to people what a podcast was. So let me explain to you what a podcast is. A podcast is an audio medium available on demand through the RSS protocol via any platform. If it has video, it is a syndicated TV program. If it is available exclusively on, it is an on-demand radio program. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Also on my mind, still reeling from the murder of Rob and Michelle Singer Reiner on Sunday. His son, Nick, has been charged now. 2 counts of first-degree murder. And I just can't imagine how the other children of Rob and Michelle must be dealing with this, to not only deal with the shocking murder of their parents, but also to lose their brother in this way and to forever have to have that conflicted feeling about their own family. It's just a shame. And I, like many people, have been going through the tributes and thinking about the films of Rob Reiner, and it reminds me that I still have never seen Misery. I know Kathy Bates won the Oscar for that one. I still have never actually seen Misery. I think I've seen almost every one of his other films, though, at least the really popular ones. And as I was going through the list, I went out, I saw some post out there that ranked all of his movies. He had like 22 or 23 movies, ranked them all using the Rotten Tomatoes website. That's the critical website that aggregates the scores from the average viewers of the movie, the audience, as well as the scores for critics. And so as it was putting out this rank, it said it was going to put the certified fresh movies first, followed by all the rest, right? So the certified fresh, it started with like Spinal Tap got a 98%, Stand By Me got like a 97% or something. I forget the exact numbers. But it did the first 7, which are the typical ones that most people think of as the great Rob Reiner movies: Stand By Me, Misery, Few Good Men, When Harry Met Sally, and so on. But then it got down to number 8, and number 8 actually had a higher number than like some of the ones in the top 7. I couldn't understand how's this ranking work. So it turns out that the certified fresh ones were listed first and then all the rest of them, but I didn't know what certified fresh was. So, you know me, I'm a hobbyist podcaster. I'm actually out there working for a living, driving people to things and things to people. So when I'm doing social media and looking things up out in the car, I'm using my voice dictation. So I said, okay, Google, on the website Rotten Tomatoes, what does certified fresh mean? Now, my little Google assistant, I've got it set up so that it has a British voice. So it came back to explain to me how the certified fresh means that it scored really high among the people and high among the critics on what is called the tomato meter. But since I have the British voice, it kept telling me about the tomatometer. Like, what? The tomatometer? Okay. Anyway, that explains why those 7 movies were at the top of the list. They ranked high on the tomatometer. And for our final quick hit, we dip into the world of professional wrestling, which I don't follow at all. I don't understand the allure of it one bit, but I have friends who follow it. My good friend Ganja John's a big wrestling fan, and so I know he'll be excited to see the announcement from the legendary Mick Foley. Now, I do know who Mick Foley is because I've seen him on talk shows and stuff, and he's always an amazing guy to see on a talk show because he's this big, hulking wrestler, kind of wild man looking guy. And he's totally erudite and intelligent and well-spoken and well-read and educated. So he's always a delight to see on the talk shows. Well, he released an official announcement, and I just want to read this to you from Mick Foley because it's nice to see that professional wrestlers have more integrity than most Republican members of Congress. Mick Foley writes, "While I have been concerned about WWE's close relationship with Donald Trump for several months, especially in light of his administration's ongoing cruel and inhumane treatment of immigrants and pretty much anyone who looks like an immigrant, reading the president's incredibly cruel comments in the wake of Rob Reiner's death is the final straw for me. I no longer wish to represent a company that coddles a man so seemingly void of compassion as he marches our country towards autocracy. Last night, I informed WWE Talent Relations that I would not be making any appearances for the company as long as this man remains in office. Additionally, I will not be signing a new Legends deal when my current one expires in June. I love WWE. I will always treasure my time with them, and I'm deeply appreciative for all the opportunities they afforded me. But in the words of Popeye the Sailor, I stands all I can stands, and I can't stands no more." Mick Foley resigning from World Wrestling Entertainment because of its support for MAGA and Trump. Good on you, Mick Foley. We need 100 more like you.
Our top story tonight.
Our top story tonight.
Bellissimo Francisco Franco is still dead.
Is still dead.
Main story I wanted to talk about today is this upcoming weekend. Of course, we have so many deadlines that are hitting. The release of the Epstein files by law is supposed to occur in 2 days. Friday, we are supposed to get the release of the Epstein files. And we've also got the deadline coming up on the Affordable Care Act subsidies, which the Republicans are not renewing. Turns out Mike Johnson's not going to schedule a vote for it, he says. So we're going to see that huge doubling, tripling, or even quadrupling of people's Obamacare premiums. So, of course, with all these things coming up in the Trump administration's rearview mirror quickly and threatening to derail what's already a disastrous presidency, it's time to go to war with Venezuela. Yeah, we've got Trump announced a blockade, air and sea blockade of Venezuela, which is a literal act of war. Blockading a country is literally an act of war. And of course, Congress has not given him that authority to declare an act of war. But, since when did the Constitution really mean anything anyway? He's not eligible to be serving in that office as an insurrectionist as it is. But we're going to wag the dog here, and they're trying. One of the most depressing things about this Trump maladministration is how it has rehabilitated George W. Bush to some extent. At least George W. Bush had the courtesy, had the respect of the American people and the Constitution to at least try to lie us into a war. To have Colin Powell go in front of the UN there with his little fake bottle of yellow cake uranium, shaking it. We're warning about Saddam Hussein having weapons of mass destruction that didn't exist so that we could have an excuse to go to a war that didn't cause 9/11, country that didn't cause 9/11, but sure had a whole lot of oil. Well, at least Bush had the courage, if you want to call it that, to try to do it constitutionally, to try to go to Congress, to get his declaration, his authorization for the use of military force. At least they had the respect to think that they had to sell it to the American people. Trump, they've got no such respect whatsoever for the Constitution or the American people. He's trying to sell the weapons of mass destruction thing by saying fentanyl is a weapon of mass destruction. Fentanyl. This is like, when they blow up the boat. That boat was carrying enough fentanyl to kill 250,000 Americans. Yeah, if you lined up 250,000 Americans and forced them all to overdose on fentanyl, I suppose that's true. But there is one big difference between the weapons of mass destruction that were alleged to be in Iraq and fentanyl, and that is it involves some work on our part to detonate that weapon. Right? Nobody in America was going to get a jonesing for a nuke in Iraq and set it off. You have to actually take the initiative on your side to take fentanyl for it to cause any problems, right? So it's not a weapon of mass destruction. It's a drug. It is a substance. And furthermore, it's a legal substance. Yes, it's highly controlled, but fentanyl's a Schedule II drug. It's not heroin. It's not LSD. It's not even cannabis, which is Schedule I, according to the federal government, having absolutely no medical use whatsoever and highly dangerous to use with no accepted margin of safety. Fentanyl has that. They use fentanyl in hospitals all the time. It is a prescribable substance. So how can something be a prescribable substance and a weapon of mass destruction? It's like new shimmer. It's a dessert and a floor topping. This is a ridiculous move by the Trump maladministration, trying to fool us with so-called fentanyl weapons of mass destruction. And in his post, he puts out a Truth Social post about this, putting out the blockade, and 5 separate times in his long meandering post, he uses the word oil. Talks about the oil. They're big oil fields. They stole oil from us. This is all another move for the petrostate. This is all another move for the big fossil fuel industries that are lining the pockets of Trump and his cronies. We're going to declare a war. We're going to get innocent people in Venezuela killed. All because Trump wants to distract from the Epstein files and wants to distract from his failure on taking care of health care for the American people. No blood for oil. I can't believe I have to say this shit every 20 years or so.
Listen, my friend, this is a matter of national importance.
I woke up this morning to some pretty alarming news coming across an Instagram feed from a woman named Ms. Grumpy Bunny. Found this out on Blue Sky, and she notes that the House of Representatives voted and passed a bill yesterday that allows for Immigrations and Customs Enforcement and the Border Patrol to conduct strip searches of migrant children. That's right, strip searches of migrant children separated from their parents, so already terrified, separated from their parents, suffering shock and trauma. And then we're going to let these Border Patrol and ICE people strip search these kids because they've gotten such rigorous vetting, all these ICE and Border Patrol guys. I'm sure they will do a professional job. Oh my God. At the same time that we're dealing with the release of the Epstein files and all of these politicians and Republicans giving lip service to wanting to protect the children, keep them safe from the pedophiles. And here we're going to add getting to rape kids as an enticement for the type of scumbags that are signing up to be ICE officials, ICE officers. Hey, not only do you get to engage in your racism and xenophobia, you can get some pedophilia in while you're at it, and we'll pay off $50,000 of your student loans. As if any of these guys went to college. Regardless, the bill is going to head over to the Senate, and we need to be contacting our senators and let them know that this is an abomination, and even the Republican Party can't support this, can they? With the Epstein files release coming up, a yes vote on allowing ICE and Customs and Border Patrol to strip search kids might not be the best look for the midterms, guys.
I got a lot of problems with you people. Now, you're going to hear about it.
Finally, I want to make a comment on a podcast I was listening to yesterday when I was driving around. I have a whole bunch of them in my subscription queue, and one of them is the podcast with Rick Wilson, the Lincoln Project podcast. Centrist white guys, never Trump Republicans. I'd like to find out what they're up to and what they're thinking. And he had as a guest on his program Scott Galloway, the professor, finance professor, who's well known for writing and thinking about modern culture and masculinity and what's going on with young men and so forth. And he's been somewhat controversial at times, but I find what he has to say interesting. I agree with him on some points. For example, he says we really need to start focusing on young men in this country and how we've let young men fall by the wayside. And he made some really good points, like, in the Kamala Harris campaign. When you went to the Kamala Harris campaign website, there was like this identities page where it had all the little, this group, that group for Kamala, and it had to do, people in wheelchairs and the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander community and the gay community and the disabled community and so on. And there's a whole bunch of them that were listed. And the only specific group left out was young men. They had women, they had retirees, they had also the working class people. They didn't have anything for young men. And he points out all these statistics where young men are falling behind. There are fewer and fewer of the college graduates and fewer of the higher PhD graduates and more suicide risk and so on. So I had a wide-ranging discussion on these things. And there's no doubt about the accuracy of the statistics. We are failing young men in many ways. But then he starts to get into, he talks a lot about setting up mating opportunities for young men. That young men are frustrated because they can't get laid. This is the old, young men can't get laid. But now he's not like passing over what the young men have to do. He often brings up, are you someone you would want to sleep with? Do you dress well? Are you fit? Do you smell nice? Are you kind? Right? So he has good advice as far as that goes. But there's one point that he makes that sticks in my craw that I really have to address. And it took me a while to get here, but here we are. In their discussions, Scott Galloway says that our recent cultural norm of being anti-alcohol, of reducing alcohol use, has been detrimental to young men. And his explanation is that alcohol is a social lubricant. It reduces your inhibitions. You get out there, you'll make more friends. You'll take the risk of asking a woman out. You'll be less inhibited to have more fun and build memories, etc., etc. There is a certain point to that, I can agree that we do need some sort of way to overcome anxiety and insecurity when we're meeting other people. But the idea that we should increase and promote alcohol use among young men, because what's a few more drunk driving deaths and domestic assaults compared to some good stories in old age? I don't buy that move exactly. All of the problems that we have with alcohol, and there are myriad problems with alcohol, the most destructive end of that, the most destructive part of those statistics reside among young men who drink. They're the young men who get in domestic violence incidences. They're the young men that get into drunk driving. They're the young men that get into fights in the bars, all because of the alcohol use. So I'm all for reducing the inhibitions and having a way for people to socialize. So why not promote that with marijuana and not alcohol? Why not promote that with a safer alternative? You want to talk about social? People don't stand around in a beer circle and pass a beer around to each other, right? But there's many a joint circle outside of a parking lot, outside of a bar somewhere where people are standing around passing a joint between each other. All of my lifelong friendships and loves have come from the use of cannabis. I gave up using alcohol altogether about 4 years ago. And for the past 10, maybe 15 years, it's been only, occasionally, maybe I might have a margarita with a Mexican dinner or something. But I come to really dislike alcohol and dislike the people on alcohol. I don't think we should be encouraging more alcohol use. I think one of the greatest things that's happened in the past 40 years is the massive decline in cigarette smoking and alcohol drinking among young people. And this has not led to a concomitant increase in hard drug use, in any sort of drug use, other than cannabis. And even cannabis has stayed relatively steady since its relaxation and legalization starting in the early 90s, or the mid 90s with the medical marijuana movement, and the 2010s with legalization. So it's a good discussion. It's a good point. We need to look at helping out young men, but let's not add more damage to society by going back to promoting more than we already do the use of alcohol. All right, that's all the time we got for this morning. Got to get to work. The Radical Russ Show is produced, directed, researched, written, recited, posted, and catered by me, Radical Russ Belville, and governed by Creative Commons share-alike licensing. News, music, and video clips and social media posts are reproduced under fair use copyright laws for commentary and analysis. My main theme is We Love the Herb by Herbal Nation, and interstitial music is by Russ Boom Boom Belville. Which brings us to our post-credits scene.
Oh, just one more thing, sir. I was thinking...
With the high-profile death of Rob Reiner and a little bit lesser extent Anthony Geary from General Hospital, we also mentioned Carl Carlton, the R&B singer, passed away this weekend. I wanted to get to a couple others that we haven't mentioned, and on the 12th, we lost Peter Green. He was a character actor who was in The Mask, but probably most known for Pulp Fiction. He was Zed. You remember the rapists in the movie Pulp Fiction, the redneck rapists. He was Zed. Of course, the famous line from Bruce Willis when asked about Zed, "Zed's dead, baby. Zed's dead." And the other couple of deaths that we had, Joe Ely, the outlaw country singer-songwriter and guitarist of the song Honky Tonk Masquerade, passed away at the age of 78. He passed away on the 15th. And then yesterday, news came across that we lost the American actor Gil Gerard. He was Buck Rogers in the 25th century, the Buck Rogers show in the early 80s. Bitty, 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 bitty. Hey, Buck. Remember that? We had Mel Blanc doing the voice of the little robot that looked like a penis. And then Aaron Gray was in that show in a bodysuit. Oh, my goodness. Yes, Gil Gerard Buck Rogers in the 25th century dies of cancer at the age of 82. May all their memories be a blessing. You can contact me by email at radicalruss@gmail.com. Call my message line at 877-RUSS-420. That's 877-877-420. And reach me on social media on Blue Sky as radicalruss.com and nowhere else. You can support this podcast financially by donating to Radical Russ on Venmo, Rad Russ on Cash App, or via PayPal on my website at radicalruss.com. Get this podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, my website, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening, and until next week, take care of each other.
You grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it.